Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first CAYA Lounge. We are very, very excited to bring you into our studio. The CAYA Lounge is set up to be able to talk to a lot of veterans in the industry, for everybody from directors to musicians to producers to engineers and actors and actresses. And today, I'm very excited to have one of my very good friends and a very respected director in the industry, Leslie Dapwatda. He has worked on a lot of amazing projects, and I'm really, really, really excited to have him with us today. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes. So, I've kind of given a brief introduction about you, but if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself.
All right. My name, like you said, is Leslie Dapwatda. I'm from Jos, Plateau State, actually from Kanke in Plateau State. And I started out first off as a musician. I've always loved music all my life. So I wanted to, work in the industry. Like growing up, I have always told people that I wanted to do three things, to be an entertainer and to be an entrepreneur and to be a soldier. So if you look at it, actually, I've done all three.
You
Like
have
I've gone through the
accomplished
whole
all
process.
three. That is amazing. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm one of those few people that actually, lived up to their, childhood ambitions. Like this is what I want to do when I grow up. And I actually ended up doing exactly that. And in 2014, I didn't realize that until one of my friends, she was a student at Pacific University in Seattle, and she was doing a project. She's a photojournalist. She was doing a project on people, talking about what you wanted to be when you grow up. And are you actually doing that right now? That was when I realized that I was in the army at the time. Like, wow, okay. I've actually gone through the whole three, things that I actually wanted to do. And I've done all of it. So yeah, my background was in music growing up. That was what I wanted to do. So after high school, I just went straight into I was writing and I was, trying to learn how to produce, and I ended up linking up with Dr. Kanan Percy Paul.
Okay.
And so I worked for him for the whole time that I was in Nigeria. Actually, I basically worked for the man. I was his studio manager for a long time. I worked in the studio. I was trained by him as a producer and engineer. And every single work ethic that I learned was from him. You know, and some of them are bad, bad in the sense that you forget to take care of yourself.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and yeah, he'll come and like, you need to go eat, and I'm like, but you don't even go eat yourself, so why are you telling me to go eat? But the point is, on Sunday, this last weekend, we were working on we're shooting a scene in my house here, and one of my assistants, she was like, I was trying to tell him to go eat. So one of them was complaining that you starved. I'm like, but I gave you time to eat. And she was like, we know how you work. You don't eat at all. So if you don't eat, we're not gonna eat. I'm like, wow, I
Oh,
didn't even realize
wow.
that. Like, I just I didn't realize it became a part of me. Like I just keep going. And thinking about it now, like the whole time that we're shooting, every time we talk about eating, I'll just sit down there like, okay, you guys go and eat. So while they're eating, I'm doing something else. And I guess so she was like, we know how you eat. I'm like, well, how you work? I'm like, man, that is not good. So I just start thinking of them.
It's very interesting that you point that out because a lot of people don't realize the rigorousness of this line of work. It's like there's a lot of back end work, there's a lot of, long hours, there's a lot of, like you said, not taking care of ourselves. So, are there any things that you have put in play right now to remind yourself to eat? Because health is wealth. If we're not healthy, we're not able to do what we do anymore. So, are there any things that you have put in place to help you to curb that?
Being an army officer, there's this how do I put it? There's this value that I have that if my guys don't eat, I'm not gonna eat. I'm always standing in the back, making sure that they're up front trying to get their food. So we make sure they eat first before I try to find food. So in the process of doing that, it became habit again. Like it's not. I find myself just sitting around waiting, and at the end of the day, I probably won't eat and it just became a part of me. And what makes it worse is the fact that I'm not a foodie. I really don't care about food. So it just makes it worse. I can sit down there and just maybe drink coffee the whole day and I'm fine.
And you'll be fine.
It's,
Yeah.
but recently, what I've been trying to do is try and force myself, basically.
Right.
Trying to see if I can force myself to sit down when people are sitting down, just find time and sit down.
This is very easy.
You know, and that way I can just eat something.
Awesome. You heard it here, people. Eat food. It's very important. Okay, so wow. Yeah. So you mentioned like, you know, working with Kanam Parsi Paul, he is a veteran. Like I don't know if there's a living being in Nigeria that doesn't know who that is. So could you like maybe could you maybe like tell us like some of the core things that you have learned? Because like I know that, you know, there's things like discipline, you know, like work ethic. Like what are those things that you learned while working with him at the studio that you still use till today that you implement and that has helped you in your career?
One of the biggest things I always go back to excellence. That man doesn't play with good sound. You know, Panam Studios or back then was one of those studios that when you finish work, the confidence you have in your work is it's unlimited. Like it's so clean and so beautiful. Forget about the music itself. I'm talking about sound, and you're a sound person, so you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sound is amazing. The quality was just something else. You know, I remember when we did a recording back then and I took it to one of the DJs to play and he was listening like, man, your work is always cleaner than all of these producers in Jaws. And I attribute all of that to the fact that it's what I learned from Dr. Panam Percival. He doesn't play it. He doesn't compromise when it comes to sound, with quality, basically in music, sound, and everything. One other thing that I've learned from him is let it go. That I can say I am it's a very bad thing that I had before. I used to be a very, very bad perfectionist.
Yes.
I am so bad. Like I've recorded a whole album and throw it away because I didn't like it. Spend so much money, finish the work. Yeah, I just threw it away because I didn't like it. I didn't like how it came out. So one of the things I learned from is let go. And it happened one day I was recording him in the studio and he went in and did one take and came out and he didn't go back in. It'll take me maybe 10 takes to get a song down. That's me.
Wow.
Yes, because I always am very, very unsatisfied, you know, with the work, with whatever I've recorded. So I learned something from him, just let it go. And because if you don't, you continue just amassing a lot of work, you know, you just keep building a body of work that is not released for people to listen to. It's not, you know, it's not out there for anybody to see what you're doing. And if nobody is listening to what you're doing or getting what you're doing, if they're not seeing what you're doing, you can't grow. You cannot grow. So I learned that's one of the things I learned. And then I learned like a bunch of different disciplines. Like you have to go through the process, you know. I remember working in the studio, the people that would start will have to wash toilets, they'll have to clean the studio and all of that. And recently I'm listening to, was it 2 years ago, listening to Leslie Dapwatda, which you know?
Yes,
he's an alumnus of ours.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so I was listening to him talk about how he started in the studio, and those are the things he was talking about, that he has to wash toilets and clean places and all of that. And when he's doing it with a smile on his face.
Yes,
you see?
I did that too. During my internship, I did that too. Everybody has to pay their dues before.
Exactly. And he said he was doing it with a smile on his face. And that was how somebody, I mean, always, when you're doing this, man, you're always smiling. You're always happy what you're doing. And that was how it opened doors for him. And he met, you know, bigger names and he started recording. He started working with people because he's always happy. There's nothing like grumbling when he's doing those things. But those are the things that I learned. You have to go through the process. You have to pay the dues, you know. But today when we talk about that, people think we're just talking. But it's the process, not just in Nigeria, but even here in the US. You did it here in the US. He did it here in the US, you know.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that I learned from, and I never took it for granted. And I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I think that one thing helped me a lot in everything I've done, even in the military. Even in the army, like wherever I go, when I'm working, whatever I'm doing, I'm always with a smile on my face. Like it's just the face is gonna pass.
It's gonna
pass. It has opened doors. Yep, and it has opened a lot of doors. You know. So those are some of the things I learned from him.
Those two are very very amazing because like with the first thing you said you learned from Dr. Padampasi Paul, like a lot of people, they, especially artists, like we, like I feel like we're always in our heads and not wanting to move forward, not wanting to move on to the next thing. It's like, oh no, but there's this like one thing that sounds like like it's off or something. So I think like those are very very great lessons. And even with like starting small, not being afraid to like grow and build and stuff like that, like I feel like a lot of some artists that I've met in Nigeria today, or like especially young ones that are trying to get into the industry and all of that, it's, I think it's important for them to hear these stories, to hear that all these big names that they're trying to aspire to these days, they did not all start the way that they are. They didn't just wake up one morning and boom, they're like mixing for Pharrell, or like working with Timbaland or anything like that. So I think it's important for them to hear those stories, to hear that do not despise like small beginnings, because you don't know where you'll end up. So those are really excellent stories.